okay on a fruitarian diet because a fruitarian diet is not 100% fruit. It includes greens, it includes nuts, seeds, sprouts, anything that you feel good about eating, right? Some people have, has anyone here adopted an 80-10-10 diet? Right? And you're probably really heavily on the sweet fruit, right? So you can incorporate sprouts to get away from the heavy nuts as well. So I used to work at Giuliano's Raw. Used a lot of nuts, a lot of salt. So modern fruitarianism moves away from all these heavy nuts. Because nuts give you what's called a nut gut, right? It can cause constipation, very hard on your liver, very high fat. That's the other movement in modern fruitarianism, is stay away from the fats because your liver has a lot of work to do, right? Your liver is almost the #1 organ of doing all the filtration in your body. It produces ketones. So has anybody here tried a ketonic diet, the keto diet? Probably not too many because it's a lot of meat, right? So the keto diet tricks your liver into losing weight by not eating carbs, so it starts digesting your body fat with ketones. So your liver has a lot of important functions, and we want to be really kind to our liver. That means stay away from the nuts as much as you can. Soak your nuts all the time. So whenever nuts are shipped, they're dried for shipping so they don't develop mold. Don't want to eat them dry because that robs your body of water, and it also is very hard on your liver. So always soak your nuts, at least overnight. I actually had a shirt that used to say that. So my diet typically stays away from nuts. I used to use Brazil nuts, macadamia nuts in all my recipes. I've been replacing them more with sprouts. Sprouts have what we call amino acids. So who here has eaten a high protein diet anytime in their life? High protein, right? I see some muscular people here. Excellent, yeah, the man in the back, he's eating fruit, that's great. So protein is made of amino acids. Amino acids are where you build your muscle, not protein. When you eat protein, it's from another animal or it's from another plant. You have to break that down into the 8 essential amino acids. You make the other 8 yourself. You have to break those down in order to build your own muscle, human muscle. Every single cell in your body is made of protein. Protein is the cell walls of your muscle fibers. So when you break down your muscle, you need amino acids, not protein. Protein is like the hardest way to get amino acids. So when people are on a high protein diet, that means they're doing twice the work. They have to break their protein into amino acids and then rebuild it. This is similar to if you have a house and you want to build another house. Someone points to the first house and says, break it all down first. You got to break it down brick by brick to build the second house. That's what we're doing when we eat lots of heavy protein foods. Protein foods will also age you, and they're also very, resource intensive. So we have to have grass that feeds the cow, take the cow, eat the protein, right? The whole thing is resource intensive, then you need to break that protein down to amino acids. A better way to do that is through amino acids directly. That's where sprouts come in. So what we're doing here is using seeds which sprout very easily. Lentil sprouts, mung bean sprouts, those are all great sprouts, but today we'll be using buckwheat sprouts. So Rachel will be making the dough out of buckwheat sprouts. So buckwheat is a pseudo grain. It's actually a seed. It starts off as a flower. I soak these overnight, and then I let them grow a tiny little tail. They're very cute. So has anyone here experimented with buckwheat? Usually cooked, right? You usually make buckwheat pancakes and grind it up or as a flour. So this is raw buckwheat. It can be hard to find raw buckwheat, but we got these in bulk. If you soak them and they don't grow little tails, they're not raw. So if you're on a strictly raw diet, you want to throw those away. They'll just get moldy. So these are living foods. Actually, I see little tails on these already. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between raw foods and living foods. So some foods are raw but not living. Yes?
I was going to say, can you use sesame seeds in place, or any other seeds in place of buckwheat, or buckwheat more preferred?
Yes, and we can talk about substitution a little later. A lot of sprouts will be substituted for buckwheat. So we're really talking about doing sprouts. Sprouted seeds, that's what we want. Sunflower seeds, you can actually grow sunflower sprouts very easily. Again, if they don't grow a little tail, they're not raw, they're probably going to get moldy, and you're not going to be able to use them for sprouts. So the next thing we're using is coconut flour. So coconut flour, this is just dried coconut, right? You can also use almond flour. hemp flour, I've made this recipe with green banana flour. If you go to your local Whole Foods or your local co-op, you'll find a section of raw flours. So the difference between raw flours and the other flours is that they've been dried at a lower temperature. So everything that we're doing here is raw. Now we turn the raw food into living food by sprouting. Okay? Some foods are not raw anymore, which means that they can't grow anymore. So if you have a food, for instance, you heat above 115 degrees, which it's probably going to get close to here at this festival, your enzymes just stop working. They can't perform their job over 115 degrees. That's the point at which you would feel very uncomfortable, right? So that's what most of the world does to their food, is they take their food, they expose it to a temperature above 115, and they kill the enzyme reaction. That means it's very hard to digest that food. So they have to break down the fiber of the food. So living foods contains lots of enzymes, lots of amino acids, and this is exactly what your body needs in order to function, in order to build muscle, in order to do the digestion. So I'm going to take a pause here and talk about the ingredients. So the other ingredient that we're using is dates. I sometimes will use very, very sweet dates. These are medjool dates, nice gooey dates. If you don't have dates, just grab whatever you got and soak them, and they'll become nice and creamy. The other ingredient, I'm going to pass this around just so everyone can take a look at it. We're not going to eat it, so don't worry about brain mass or anything. This is kind of just for demonstration purposes. But this is chia seeds. So chia is off the charts usually. I grew up in the 70s. I remember Chia Pets. Is there anyone else here who remembers Chia Pets? Chia. Go ahead and pass this around. Just jiggle it. Have fun with it. Don't put your hands in it because everyone's going to be looking at it. This is soaked chia seeds. We used to spread these on top of these little clay heads and little pigs and grow hair off of them. So there's actually a bald guy you could grow hair on if you spread the chia seeds. Turns out here in the 21st century, we found out that chia seeds are amazing for you, especially if you soak them. So the technique that we're using here is to use chia seeds to provide moisture to our donuts. So let's talk about dehydrated foods. Everyone's favorite subject when they go to a raw vegan restaurant. Dehydrated foods will rob your body of water. You can only have so much water in your body at one time. I sometimes will drink a gallon of water a day. If I'm on a cleanse, then I'll drink 2 gallons of water a day. Anytime you eat dehydrated foods, it needs to rehydrate before you can eat it. It's simply indigestible unless it's in its pure water form. So what we do with the chia seeds that's being passed around is we give it water first, so it doesn't take the water from our body. There's 2 very important things that our body needs that are overlooked a lot of times in a raw vegan diet. That's fiber and water. These are extremely, extremely important nutrients. No one ever says, oh, I ate a bunch of fiber today, right? No one ever, sometimes people brag about eating water. They always talk about how many vitamins, how much protein they eat. Fiber and water eliminate toxins from your system. They go through your intestine, and anytime your body produces waste products, it wants to send it to the intestine. In order to do that, it needs water. It's like having a dry sewer system or a dry river if you don't drink enough water. So you always want to preserve your water system. Also, if you're hydrating yourself with, for instance, coconut water or sugarcane juice, those don't count for your elimination system. They're not pure water. They're already saturated with minerals, they're saturated with sugar, and they simply don't have the room to be able to absorb the waste product from your body that your waste product needs to get rid of. So it's very important to drink pure water every day, okay? Everyone make a promise to me. You're going to drink some water today, right? Pure water. It's extremely important for your elimination system. Yes, you're doing all the right things. This is great. So, yes, there's a question. So coconut, no, I'm not saying anything's not good for you. What I'm saying is your elimination system needs empty water. It needs water with nothing dissolved in it because your body wants to put the waste products in the water. Yes, another question. It's anytime you have low sodium water, that's the best for you. Yeah, low sodium water. Whether you want to go distilled spring water, I've actually done a cleanse where I just drink really young coconuts that I got in Hawaii. They don't have any sugar in them, but it's filtered water. Another thing you can use is, for instance, cucumber juice first thing in the morning. But make sure you're drinking pure water at least once a day. Fiber. One of my favorite fruits is zucchini. Zucchini has a lot of fiber in it. Fiber goes through your system and pulls all these toxins that I'm sorry, not toxins, waste products. Your body produces acidic waste products. It needs somewhere to go, somewhere safe. So the fiber is a sponge inside your system to be able to pull all those waste products, isolate it from you reabsorbing it.
You're good.
Right? So if you have waste product go to your intestine may then reabsorb that if there's no fiber in it. Okay. So we're going to talk about the recipe now. I've talked your ear off. You know all about fiber, all about water, all about fruitarianism, living foods. So this is a living food recipe. All right, so Rachel, go ahead and take it away. Tell us what you're going to do.
Okay, so I'm going to split these dates, take out the pits.
Penny, she's over here near the tents. So 4 ingredients here. Dates, sprouted buckwheat, soaked chia, and any kind of raw flour that you want to use. Green banana flour, coconut flour. You can even use when you make almond milk, that pulp that's left over from the almond milk. Put it in your freezer. Use it later. You can make desserts out of it. It's great. It's defatted almond flour. It's a low fat. So you can use almond flour. And then this is the magic ingredient. This is the chef's touch right here. Psyllium husk powder. All right, who here has walked through the lawn? Anybody walk through any of the lawns here? All right, good. Next time you do it, make sure you do it barefoot. Look down and you'll find psyllium. It grows wild here. It's a plant called plantain. So it has, I should have brought one up, but it has very long, thin leaves. It has kind of a long stem, and there's a thimble on the end of it with little, tiny little white flowers. So get on your knees and take a look at it. That's psyllium husk. It's 100% fiber, has no calories. It soaks up about 9 times its weight in water. The raw chefs use this as a trick to make things chewy. Okay? So chewiness, and also, again, important fiber. Want to make sure we get our fiber in the diet. It can be very easy to overdo it on psyllium husk because it does rob your body of water. So you want to make sure you're just using little bits. So that's a very minor ingredient. Okay, so what's next?
Okay, so you'll definitely need like a food processor. You can sometimes use a blender, but it probably wouldn't work as well. And then you're going to add some of the chia and the buckwheat. Speak up a little bit. Louder. You're going to add some of the chia and the buckwheat.
There we go.
And then we're going to blend.
Not yet.
How much are you adding?
How do we get the recipe?
Yeah, so the recipe is on my Instagram, rawvegan.love, and you'll see that I did a live with Lissa Maris and Nathan Maris. You may know them as Raw Food Romance and Nice Cream King on Instagram. There's a full live that details this. Has anyone watched Chef AJ's channel? Excellent. I also did a live on there too. So it's very easy proportions, 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. Can everyone remember that? 1, 1, 1, 1. So 1 cup, 1 pound, 1 gallon, whatever you want to do of sprouted buckwheat, the 1 cup of almond flour, 1 cup of soaked chia seeds. So they'll gain a lot of weight in water. And then you want to do 1 tablespoon per cup of the psyllium husk. Just a little bit. Okay, so yes, go ahead. The what? Oh, rawvegan.love. That's also my website, rawvegan.love. You can Google Chef Ocean Instagram. And what's your Instagram?
Harvesting Health.
Harvesting_health on Instagram. And Rachel Jackson. Yes.
You only have to do this
If you want to soak it overnight, that's considered a soak, not a sprout. So once you soak it overnight in the water, you want to drain it using a colander or a strainer, and then just let it sit in the colander or strainer for 1 to 2 days. It's a sprout once you get a tiny little tail on it.
So like 3 days it'll take to make.
It goes very quickly. I would say 1 to 2 days at most.
Okay. So a cup of that sprout.
Yes.
Smush it in and really get a cup or just loosely.
Just loosely. This is a very easy recipe, very flexible recipe. Yeah.
I sprouted the buckwheat. I followed the recipe. I rinsed. I sprouted, but and they sprouted tails, but it had a bit of an odor.
Yes. Oh, that's very important to rinse your sprouts.
I did.
Yeah. So you may have gotten some old buckwheat. Yeah, and they will produce an odor. Sprouts do smell kind of funky. And the reason is they're growing. They're producing compost literally as they're growing. Just make sure you rinse them really thoroughly. If you don't like the smell, throw them away. You don't want it. You don't want to eat anything that doesn't smell good to you. Excellent. So she's putting in the coconut flour. She's got sprouted buckwheat, dates, and some chia in there. She's just going to spin it until it becomes like a ball of a dough. So while she's doing that, let's talk about no liquid at all. No liquid at all, right. So the important point of this is the donuts you're about to eat are going to be very moist. Don't over dehydrate your food. Again, it robs your body of water. I know everyone's been staring at these. I made them specifically moist and not so sweet because I think everyone's getting kind of burned out on the sweetness. We're eating lots of like sugar cane juice and dates and all kinds of things. So these are going to be mildly sweet. If you have more of a, I guess, a fruit palate, we're going to be putting a mango fruit filling in these. But if you have a sweeter palate, I'm going to give you some alternative frostings to put on top of here. If you really want to satisfy that, I want that Homer Simpson donut. Yes, but what?
What's the shelf life on refrigerator?
The shelf life. Okay, so one thing I need to warn you about coconut is it will saponify. Is anybody familiar with that term, saponification? Has anyone made soap? Okay, I've made soap. So soap is oil and lye mixed together. That means something alkaline. Lye is the most alkaline. And the oil from the coconut will turn into soap if you leave it for, I would say, if it's a room temperature, you have about 6 hours to eat it before it turns soapy. What will literally happen is the oil of the coconut will chemically react with the alkaline ingredients like the dates and turn into soap. Once you eat a soapy coconut, you never want to eat coconut again. It's like a traumatic experience. Soap doesn't
What
taste
about
good.
refrigerated?
But you want to refrigerate it, that slows down that chemical reaction.
How long?
You can refrigerate it until they're ready to serve. But you can keep them in the refrigerator, I would say, at most 2 days.
If I make it my store, I got 2 days to sell.
You have 2 days to sell it, so make small batches. Yes. If you want to resist that saponification, just don't use coconut. And use almond flour, green banana flour, or the almond pulp. All right, so the recipe for this one is mame sapote. Who here likes mame sapote?
I do!
Yeah, my favorite. So we use mame sapote. The mame sapote is the frosting on top, so it's not going to be as sweet as we're used to. We're used to like a really sugary hit out of our donuts. I want to avoid that for everyone here because what will happen is we'll all crash this out. Right? We don't want to fall asleep and get sunburned in the lawn. The filling for some of these donuts is a mango filling. Simply just mango, and then again the chef's ingredient. Here's your recipe for jelly. Pick any fruit, blueberry, raspberry, mango, any fruit that you want. Put 1 per cup of fruit after you puree it, 1 tablespoon of psyllium husk, mix it really thoroughly, let it sit, instant jelly. Don't need to boil it, don't need to do anything to it, no canning. So that's what we did with the mango puree, and that's what I'm going to do in the vitamins. So we got some really ripe mangoes, and we're going to make the filling. Yeah, we're just making some practice donuts. I know everyone's been staring at these, but don't worry, we're going to eat them pretty soon. So I'm just going to take the mango, puree it in the Vitamix. And the Vitamix is a little tricky to use, but it's basically a lawnmower. Right? You've got a lawnmower and a blade, and it's just going to puree anything that you put into it. So that's really all we're doing here is we're going to be pureeing the mango, and then adding a little bit of psyllium husk to it to soak up the extra water. Not too much, because that will dry you out if you put too much in there. It'll become really thick. Let it sit for about 5-10 minutes, and you've got jelly. So that's what's on the inside of these donuts. I don't see anyone wearing a super. Oh, that's a nice shirt. Okay. Let's see. You've got a nice shirt on. You shouldn't have worn your nice shirts today because this mango's gonna squirt. As soon as you bite into these things, it's gonna go all over the place. So I hope everyone wants to get messy because you're gonna get mammy and mango all over you. Yes. So the technique that we did. Oh, this is looking good. So see how? Here, let me move this out of the way. So what she's doing is she's making a dough. And did you get your spoon? Yeah. So eventually what this is going to do is it's going to start circling around and make a dough. And then you get to take your hands and just kind of mush it. So we're going to take it out after it's homogenized. Put it in the bowl and just squish it around and we're going to get a really nice dough. The sweetening of this is dependent upon how sweet you want it. If you're serving your friends who aren't vegan and eat a lot of sweet foods and really want a real big hit out of their donuts, I would recommend you could put xylitol in here, which is a fermented sugar. Not necessarily fruitarian, but it is a sugar that doesn't cause cavities, right? You could put more dates in it, yes. So
Coconut sugar.
Yes, coconut sugar, make sure it's raw. Maple syrup. Who here uses maple syrup in their recipes? Excellent. So that's the difference between a raw living foods diet and a cooked diet. Maple syrup is heavily cooked. So if you're using maple syrup, that's not something I would use in my diet because you're taking maple water and boiling it a lot. So there's several other ingredients that people think are raw that are not actually raw. And maple syrup is one of them. However, I'm not going to discourage you from eating maple syrup. It does have a lot of vitamins, does have a lot of benefits. If you're not sensitive to it, then you can go ahead and use that.
What about agave?
Agave, yes, that's a very sensitive subject. So there's supposedly raw agave on the market. I've never experienced how agave is processed, but if you want to buy the raw agave, the key to it is how does your body react to it? Do you feel good after you eat the agave? If the answer is yes, eat it. That's fine. Don't let me tell you what to eat. Don't let anyone else tell you what to eat. Your body has the most authority over how you feel, over what you eat, how you absorb. So make that your guide. Okay? So everyone promised me you're going to listen to your body, right? These books are really helpful, and you can get very scared about eating all kinds of different foods, but experiment with it. Take a little bit, see how it feels. Okay? Does that answer your question? Yes. Okay, so let's continue with our mango.
What dough should look like? It starts to form little like shapes around.
So again, this is just made of seeds and fruit, right? The seeds are considered fruitarian, and she's got it to the point where it's actually looking like a dough. Once you've got this, it's extremely versatile. So let's talk about branching out from this recipe. The frosting, we used all fruit in the frosting here today. Coconut butter, one of my favorite things to use. So this is Artisana has a one, I think there's one called Nana. Not coconut oil. Don't use coconut oil, that won't work. Coconut butter is just pureed coconut. You can make your own coconut butter if you grab the meat from the coconut and just puree it. That's coconut butter. Coconut butter will melt in a dehydrator at about 115 degrees. Then you can mix it with something sweet like dates and then put some carob or cacao powder if you're eating cacao. Put it in the dehydrator, let it melt, and then you spread it on top of your donuts, put them in the fridge immediately, and then it will make a nice frosting on top, like a glazed frosting. I tried, there was 6 different people that tried to get everyone here some coconut butter so we could do the glaze. We unfortunately don't have coconut butter for probably 100 miles around us. It's just not a common ingredient, but you can find a Whole Foods ordered off Amazon. That's how you would get your frosting on here. You can make a chocolate frosting by melting the coconut butter in the dehydrator, get it nice and wet, putting your carob or your cacao powder in it, mixing it up, and pour it on the donuts and put it immediately in the fridge.
This is high level shit, huh?
Yeah.
Nothing I'll
think I
ever
could
make,
make it.
but
So what she's doing is she's trying, the dough's a little bit sticky, so she's experimenting and putting a little bit more dry coconut flour there to make it so it doesn't stick everywhere. So this is a very flexible recipe. When you go home and make
cheaper than I
it,
think.
have fun with it. You're going to see how I make it. Remember with the 1-1-1-1 ratio, but I want you to come back next year and tell me what you did with this recipe, right? You can put bananas in it, make banana bread with it. You can take the dates out, put garlic and rosemary in it, make garlic rosemary bread. I've actually made pumpernickel bread by putting cacao powder in here with no sweetener. Makes a really dark bread. You can make pizza crust with this. Let's see what else. Let's see, name some baked goods. Croissants, that's a good one. I want you to come back next year and make croissants. Yes, crackers. Yes, you can make buckwheat crackers, nice sweet buckwheat crackers. How about phyllo dough? Baklava. This is your basic recipe for making almost any dessert that has a bread in it. Right? Yes, biscuits. Yes, that's an excellent one. So biscuits would be, I don't know, you could put maybe a coconut butter on top of it for your butter. Bagels, yes, with some, what is it, everything bagel seasoning?
Muffins.
Dried, what?
Muffins.
Yes, if you want to take out the dates, yes. So let's talk about salt for a moment. I'm going to turn it over to Rachel because she has a lot of excellent advice about salt. So go ahead and tell us about salt.
Speak loud.
Yeah? How about don't overdo it on salt? Yes, speak loud.
I don't really consume any extra salt besides salt in plants. Because I just don't believe it's good for humans. It's basically inorganic rock, so yeah. And I don't think it's raw either because most of it is cooked and all the minerals are cooked out of it.
celery, tomatoes, those are all very salty. You've eaten sun-dried tomatoes, sometimes they add salt to them. Why do they do that? To preserve it, right, but they have a ton of salt in them already. I've never seen a sun-dried tomato go moldy. So they're already organic salts in them. That's what we want to get in our body is slow-release organic salts. Like you said, celery.
Yeah. Cell salts.
You literally just stick it on the dehydrator. Yeah, you can put it in the Vitamix when it's all dry, and then you make a celery salt. Yes.
And you use the salt from the juice?
Yeah,
You juice, right? Can you just...
celery juice.
Yeah, right.
This is Maggie. She's another member of my team. She's been helping make the sauces, and so is Rachel. So round of applause for Maggie. She's been making all the sauces. Yes. I have a very excellent crew. We have all kinds of great knowledge and excellent chefs on the team this year. So here I'm making the pudding. So if you don't have a Vitamix, you can use any old blender, right? Blueberries, raspberries, those all make great jams. Oh, I did. Yes, let's see, we can use this. Yeah, do a couple. So Rachel is moving on to the next step, which is where you can get anyone involved. Get your kids involved. Be a little kid. So you just make fun little shapes. So we made 2 shapes this year. I made the round ones with the holes in them, right? The Homer Simpson donuts. Those don't have mango filling in them. So if you're really hungry and you're kind of burnt out on mango, you want to grab the really big ones with the holes in them. Those have the mame sapote frosting on them. And then I'm making the filling for them. And then you can also make jelly donuts, which is the other donut. So jelly donuts is this shape here. Oh no, this is the hole.
The jelly donut.
Now the jelly donut is going to be a patty that you're going to slice in half like a bagel. Okay? Flip it over into 2 pieces, make a little indentation with your thumb, make a little cup, put the jelly inside, and then seal it back up. You can pinch it on the. We spent about 4 hours on these donuts, so they're not pinched together. Yeah. Then you can serve them to people, and then yes, there we go. Yeah. So here, so there's a little cup in the middle. That's where this comes in. So we're going to Vitamix this. Okay, see how fast that was? This is a lawnmower. Just made a nice liquid. Now this goes with our psyllium husk. I'm just going to eyeball this, but normally this is about a cup and a half. So normally this would be 1.5 tablespoons of psyllium husk. So I'm going to pour this into the bowl here. It's already pretty thick on its own. A little bit of psyllium husk. I'm going to mix it with a spoon, and then we've got jelly. Easy, right? Yeah, raspberry jelly, anything that you want. So just mixing it. I'm going to let it sit for about 5 minutes, and when it comes back out, it's going to be a jelly, and if I put enough psyllium husk in here, it will actually, I can put it on the spoon and hold it upside down. So that's what's on the inside of these donuts.
So the easiest way to make it is like make a little ball and then make it flat and then just poke a little hole in the middle. That's basically it.
Okay, we're almost at the point where we're going to eat donuts. Who's ready? Excellent. So these are going to be not as sweet as you would normally expect from a donut. Mame sapote and mango have a lot of sugar in them, so if you're eating a lot of sweet sugar, this may not be as sweet as you would expect. But again, you can go home and make this a more sweet recipe if you'd like. As I mentioned, xylitol would be something, and then we also have cane sugar. So the cane sugar juice, raw, right? No one's heated that cane juice sugar. So we were going to put it in here, but I want to make sure everyone got the non-sweet experience. This is a fruitarian experience, just fruit and seeds. So, oh yes, that's the last thing we want to talk about is dehydration. So what I did is I set them in the dehydrator for about an hour. So if you over dehydrate them, that robs your body of water. We need water. We don't want to rob our body of water. So these are going to be very moist, chewy donuts. I put them in the dehydrator for about an hour, pull them back out, put the filling inside, and then put the cap on top, which actually let's do an experiment. Let's do one of them. So this is our filling. We just dropped it in. This has been in the dehydrator for an hour. Just dropped it in, and then we put a cap on top of it. like this. And there's our jelly donut. So it's going to squirt everywhere. I put it back in the dehydrator for another hour. So we have a total dehydration of 2 hours. Not 8 hours, not 12 hours. And then finally I took the mayonnaise chipotle frosting, put it on top, and I put it in the fridge because we don't want the coconut to saponify. And I think we're ready to eat. Yeah! Alright. How's this currently done? Do we pass it on or do people want to walk by? Let's see, maybe we should just...